And I am absolutely 100% clipping this from the stream. Any advice for just promoted senior developer from junior on how to start reviewing PRs? Take JavaScript for example. Yes. More than one person reviewing. There's a book called Tribal Leadership, and I think some of the principles apply in general. So it's not just reviewing PRs, it's that you're trying to create team cohesion. So it needs to be not just you and that person, it needs to be one other person. So the way that we're doing it on a 4-man team is that every PR needs at least 2 people. If it's a big PR, then it needs everybody. And we will tag the people that are most likely to be interested in that PR, either because they have a responsibility for it or because they just have an interest in what goes on in that system. Another thing that I'm going to recommend is to use metrics that are pretty easy to understand. I'm going to recommend So first of all, I'm going to recommend again creedsofcraftsmanship.com. Just take a look at this in general for software engineering talks. But the most important thing with a PR is that first, it doesn't break anything. So you need to have some sort of metric by which you gauge, does this break stuff? Because if it breaks stuff, or if it's likely to introduce a bug, that's a needs improvement. The second thing is, for every metric you have to have a counter metric. So the first metric is if it breaks anything, that's a fail, or let's not say a fail. That's a needs improvement. If it doesn't break anything, and there are other code standards that you have that it goes against, I would say, does it fix something? Because if it fixes something, then it's more important to get good code in than it is to be nitpicky about all the little pieces, right? So what I do, if it's depending on whether it's a training type situation or if it's just a review type situation, is I approve pull requests that fix something that don't break something. Now, if the code is ambiguous or it's non-obvious what if it could break something, then that's a needs review. But if I can tell that it fixes something and I can tell that it doesn't break anything, that's an approve with comments. So I might make comments, but they don't have to address those comments in order to get the code through. I would like them to, but I'm not going to stand in the way of them getting the code through if it doesn't break anything and it does fix something. Or if it adds a feature that wasn't there before, that's a feature that's good to get in. So those are the kind of two, the metric and the counter metric that I would use, because you don't want to drag people down in the mire, but you also do want to promote code standards. Now, if you're doing reviews frequently and you leave certain comments, hopefully the things that you're leaving in comments, you can actually get into the code tooling. So for example, the JS Hint, the Prettier RC, the similar tools that you use. If you're not using a JS Hint and a Prettier RC, you're doing it wrong. Maybe you're using an ESLint rather than a JS Hint, but whatever. You need a JS Hint RC, you need a Prettier RC.json. Those files must be in every repository. You cannot adequately review code if those don't exist, because those set the law and those can be agreed upon by the team. I think that Prettier has a lot of great resources about their philosophy. In fact, I believe I put that on Creeds of Craftsmanship. Let me just check that real quick. Creeds of Craftsmanship. I think the Prettier rationale, right here. So the Prettier rationale is one that I recommend when it comes to code style. So you have to think about, there's a couple of different things that you're trying to get. There's code correctness and there's code style. And forcing things on people is really hard. So you got to find the right balance. But I will say, tend towards correctness in any way that you can, both in logic and in style. Don't, always, rule of thumb, if it sounds cool, don't do it. So anything where somebody says, oh, that's really cool, that's a good sign that that's bad code, because it means that it's something that people say that when it's something that's non-intuitive, that does a little trick that you wouldn't know unless you were, knew the language really well. Anything like that, Don't do it unless it's got a comment and it says, we have to do this for this reason. Excellent example, one of which is in the Go code base. I think this might even still be open. Let me see if it's just right here. Is it right here? Yes. So I'm going to go to this. Was it decode or encode? I think it was encode is what I was looking at. Let's go look at encode. Let's see if we can get this. Okay, this is a perfect example of, oh, that's cool, but it's not because it's cool. It's because it's actually necessary. There's a little compiler trick here. And it's cool because it's like, oh, that's a neat little compiler trick. But it's not because it's cool that they do it. It's because it's important. And they have a comment, a very articulate comment explaining what needs done. Yes, simple is better than clever. So you can look at the Go Proverbs and the Zen of Python, both of which are creedsofcraftsmanship.com. You can, the poster, I have printable posters. So boom, this is the Zen of Python. You can't really tell, but it is, okay? And this is my other one. Here's the Go Proverbs, printable posters. And they're both 19 stanzas long, and so you can reference them as P1, P19, P12, and so forth, or G1, G19. But those are, I think those are very, very good things to live by. So that is my answer to that.